Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons, or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as Mr. Most Days Off, and we have a full house of guests today to talk about the Last Temptation of Krust. So, without any further ado, we're just going to go ahead and get right to it. First of all, introducing your co-host with the most, it's Richie the Whiz Kid. How are you today, Rich?
I'm feeling all over the place. I don't think I can do this today, Miles. This is gonna get complicated real fast. Let me just throw it back to you already. He's the man. He's the myth. He's the hey you behind the bushes. He is Miles.
Yep, that's probably accurate. It is, it's going to be a train wreck, but it's going to be a great time, and that's what this show is all about. We've got some local Dallas comedians here that absolutely love The Simpsons and are also absolutely hilarious, which is something you should never introduce guest as at an open mic, but fuck that, this is a podcast. So, first up, David Diaz is a local Dallas comedian. He actually hosts a both open mic and workshop at the Addison Improv, and he is here today. Welcome to the show, David. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing good, man. We're super stoked to have you here to talk about The Simpsons today.
Stoked right back.
And we also have the living legend, the more of an experience than a man, really. It is Tom Murphy. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Hey, yeah, the only thing I host is the coronavirus. So, hey, it's first one of the day. Here we go.
Yeah, what's funny is this show is usually recorded way in advance, but through scheduling conflicts and whatnot, this is actually going to be one of the most current episodes. This will actually release on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe next Sunday. But yeah, that should definitely still be relevant at that time.
And then we got episodes a few weeks in advance that don't even talk about it.
I think this is all probably going to blow over by tomorrow. I don't think it's...
All right, we'll go ahead and express now that the Best Darn Diddly Review Show does not endorse or reflect the views of Tom Murphy.
But it does cure coronavirus.
But it does cure your viruses. Yes, that is correct. David, we'll go ahead and start with you, sir. We always like to ask our guest, what is your first earliest memories of The Simpsons? How did The Simpsons become a part of your life?
I just remember always liking it, but I do remember my mom having a thing against it. She really did not want me watching that.
That seems to be a common thread with our guest. They either come from two camps. It's or maybe three. There's the anti-Simpsons camp. There's the Richie's side of things, where it's him and his father watch the show together. And then there's my situation where my parents were it's a cartoon. Clearly, it's for kids.
I think that was the objection. Is that I would be watching a cartoon and then Homer would throw out a hell or a damn.
Sure, and you don't want to go to hell for saying damn.
Well, I don't know where I wanted to go as a kid, but my mom didn't want me watching it.
Fair enough. Tom... go ahead, David.
That one where Homer's like, come on up here, Flanders, I got you some kick-ass seats in church.
Oh, yeah.
That was, that memory is burned into my head as my mom throwing a fit about that.
I could see that one, especially if you are from a religious family. That one might ruffle a few feathers.
Oh, yeah, and we were.
Though Indigata de Vita absolutely slams in that Springfield congregation.
That's the first time I ever heard that song.
Nice.
Simpsons introduced me to a lot of things.
Awesome. Yeah, that's true for I think a lot of people our age. And Tom Murphy, you also are here today, and I would also like to know, what is your earliest memory of The Simpsons, and how did the show become a part of your life?
It was probably when I was in school. I used to come home and watch it. It was on the Fox affiliate, right when I got off the school bus. So I used to watch it after school every day. And then, my mom was... my mom was terrified of everything till I was 20. So I think she had a problem with it. I don't remember it being a real strong. I know my dad liked the show, but he's I don't know what's the word.
The word you're looking for. I think the word you're looking for, Tom, is
Yeah. Here's a problem on a podcast that Crutcher Mind doesn't work as well. Just, leaning on fucking having a goofy voice and not knowing how your sentence is going to end. So,
well,
it's a great strategy on stage, not so great in conversation.
If only this was a video call, then I think the message would be much more loudly received.
Wasn't that brought briefly a couple times?
It was indeed.
You can do it. You can do it as a one-man video pod. You guys just be voices like disembodied, and then I could be Oz.
I feel like we might have a new hit show for the quarantine. So I also usually ask our guests why they chose this episode, but I think it's pretty clear why my stand-up comedian friends would be interested in coming on to the Krusty Does Stand-Up episode. But was there any other specific draw to this episode that you guys had when you were looking over the list?
No, you nailed it already. That is exactly why.
Makes sense. I was also excited to talk about it, so I get it. Tom, anything other than hey, I do stand up and so does that clown, or is there something deeper for you?
No, that's about it for me. That's like my middle school level of analysis of anything. It's like, I like that. That's the one with the guitar. I like guitars. I'll pick the guitar one. Then everyone will know I like guitars.
Perfect.
Yeah. I was just doing that with comedy. Yeah.
That sounds like a solid plan, honestly.
It's a good episode, too. Like, I remember the episode. Like, I hadn't seen it in a while, and then I remembered it just seeing the name, and then I went back and watched it. So, yeah, it's a good episode.
So, I usually don't do this, but I am just genuinely curious, because, Richie, you and I have not really talked a whole lot about this one. What are your thoughts coming into this episode, being that we, and when's the last time you saw this episode?
Honestly, I think it's been a while since I've seen this one. I thought this one was many more seasons down the road. I didn't realize it was all the way back in season 9. And I don't know. I go back and forth with this one because I feel like the parts where Krusty's doing his really racist bit, you're just like, oh God, please stop. And it makes you feel uncomfortable. But then I love it when he starts screaming at everybody. So I guess that's probably the point of the episode. And I'm only talking about this episode because I have to be here each and every week. It's mandatory. So
I'm with you on, I thought this was like a season 12 episode or something.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. I will say I've got a great bit from the commentary, speaking of that very dated, antiquated, racist scene that you just referenced. But I'll talk about it when we get there. First of all, I will say that this was also
save the racism for later.
Yeah, we like to keep the racism for the second act.
I mean, you definitely made the right. You want to save the racism until I'm the guest. That's I'm flattered that you waited until I got here.
Honestly,
Tom, do you even remember me? You've met me before, right?
Yeah. I was. You recorded the hypnotist show, right?
Yeah, he was the other guy, not the one that recorded it. But he was.
Wait, who were you? Who were you?
No,
you were the other guy.
I wasn't at the hypnotist show, and if I was, I don't remember being there.
You were hypnotized.
Wait, what's your name? How do I know you?
I was at Hat Tricks on my birthday, and I picked you as the winner that night.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about
shit,
that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I do remember you. I didn't know, I don't think I knew that you were the co-host.
Yes,
well, it's okay.
I was
Richie forgot
I was
that we
up
had
until today.
sang several songs on a live podcast that day, so I think everybody was in good spirits that night. I completely derailed what I was going to say, something in rebuttal to what Richie said, but now I don't even remember what that was.
Ruining jokes since 1985.
The full commentary, that's what it was. This one actually featured Matt Groening, Mike Scully, Don Carey, Ron Howdy, George Meyer, Mike Anderson, Yardley Smith, and Jay Leno joined the commentary for this one. So usually there's maybe 4 or 5 voices. This one was largely carried by Leno, and you could tell, I think a lot of people are just like, oh, Leno's doing it? I'll do it. I'd like to be in on that conversation.
That makes sense.
I think, wasn't Janine Garofalo on there, too? She was one of them.
Well, Janine Garofalo is one of the comedians that guest voiced, but this is specifically from the DVD commentary.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, you're good. You're good. I understand listening isn't most of our strong suit, so...
I didn't realize we were going into special features. I'm sorry.
We dive deep here, Tom. It gets messy sometimes, but that's the right. Oh, now I realize I was going to say we usually make like 1,000 Irish jokes on each episode, but we're going to keep that up on this one, too.
Just only make them about the Protestants and we're good.
So we are talking about The Last Temptation of Krust today, which originally aired on February 22nd, 1998. This one had a chalkboard gag that said, "Pain is not the cleanser." Did you go to Catholic school, Tom? Because that sounds like something you may have heard.
Well, they had a different opinion. They thought it was, that it did have some hygienic properties. Right? So, yeah.
And then the couch gag for this one was the Simpsons come in with their butts literally on fire, but fortunately for them, their couch is a trough, so they're able to sit and extinguish the flames, I guess, for lack of a better word.
I enjoyed that bit.
Yeah, it was fun. We opened up this episode at the Springfield shopping mall where Marge is trying to get new shoes for the kids. Maybe both. I don't know. But I like that a couple of things in this scene. One, I like that Bart complains, why do we need shoes? I mean, Jesus wore sandals.
Well, maybe if he had better arch support, they wouldn't have caught him.
I also...
I don't...
Oh, go ahead.
I don't think the line was in this one, but... it was one of my favorite Krusty lines when he's releasing his kids clothing line, and he's like clothes made by kids for kids.
Nice. This one I like.
Really the entire fucking season. But, I'm sorry. Can we swear, or what's the? I don't.
David is allowed to swear all he wants. You, sir, need to keep it PG.
Fiddlesticks.
It's the rule on the show. The first person to ask about the rating gets the lowest rating. So, David, hold out, and you can literally get naked on the show if you want to.
I'm gonna save it for when it counts.
There you go. Yeah. No, say whatever the fuck you want, Tom.
Shit, motherfucker.
Perfect.
Fucking bullshit.
Doing the opposite strategy of David. Just make the word meaningless. I love it.
Yeah.
And I got the nudity. There we go.
And
okay.
No.
Christ, yeah.
Wait, did something just pop up on video? Because I don't have that up. But I'm glad.
It was Tom's face right now.
I think we're good.
I was trying to show my nipple to everyone to claim the nudity.
Nice.
Like a trophy, I don't know.
So,
or mantle.
Just so you know, we're the only ones that will see that. I do want that to be very clear, because we don't have a video platform. So do whatever you want.
We definitely won't after this episode.
Marge decides to get Homer out of the situation by suggesting he goes and argues with that bird that he enjoys arguing with. Well, if it isn't Professor Know-It-All. And then Marge is specifically searching for a good, stiff, all-purpose dress shoe, something that could be worn to church, but also for doctor's appointments, dental checkups, piano recitals, building dedications, visiting elderly relatives, haircuts, and shoe shopping.
Well, we have a brown shoe.
Ooh, hear that, kids? Brown.
So hang on, did they not do that joke with the when they're looking at a dog?
Which joke are you referring to?
I'm talking about Brown. Wasn't there one where Lisa or somebody points out a dog or a cat, and Bart's like, "Ooh, Brown. Don't see those every day."
That sounds super familiar, but I don't have that visual in my head right now.
All right, never mind then.
Also, are one of you watching the news in the background?
Oh, you know what? I think I do have a callback there. I didn't know you guys could hear that.
It's all good.
I grew deaf to it.
I understand. All good.
I've got another podcast going on back there.
Oh, good. Maybe listen to one of the top 20 rated Simpsons podcasts, and then we can talk about what they had to say about it.
I've got a Family Guy podcast going on back there, so
perfect. It'll be like
I'm actually jumping back and forth with you guys in ABC News. They're interviewing me for a project they're calling Patient Zero.
Perfect. Yeah. I auditioned for that, but didn't get it. What can you do?
Hang on. Gotta have a dry cough.
So as the family is leaving the mall, they're actually stopped by a guy at a kiosk who asks Marge specifically, "Excuse me, ma'am, but do you like to laugh?"
Oh. Well, if it's tasteful.
I like, too, that she adds, "and never at someone. Or with."
Oh,
I
did like the not at someone.
Yeah. Not at somebody or with somebody.
Or with somebody. Yeah.
But the guy doesn't miss a beat and then just looks at Homer. "Excuse me, sir, do you like to laugh?"
Why, yes, I do.
"Well, then you'll love our comedy festival. It's for a good cause."
A rest home for pirates?
Absolutely. Oh, wait, that's not the line.
So this whole scene is inspired, and really this episode is inspired by the fact that in this time in the 90s, comedy festivals were really starting to boom in the LA area. Like, it seemed like they were like, basically the commentary said that it seemed like every week they're having like another comedy festival, and you'd always see these promotional things going on. And now that we live in the plague, that's just depressing because comedy is dead and all of us are dying.
It felt like before the plague, that was starting to happen again.
Yeah, it did. Like, there was a boom festival of, like, I thought I might have a chance of getting on one. Like, that's how many there are.
Yeah, there's so many, and they just had that Netflix as a joke. That maybe scheduled for, like, next month or so.
That looked like it was going to be such a huge lineup, too. I think they had Chappelle on the show, and he wasn't even the headliner. Like, that's how good of a lineup that was.
Yeah. This is all pre-plague.
Yeah. The plague has ruined a lot of good things.
After this, we're just going to be paying to see, like, 3-ply toilet paper live. Yeah.
Dude, it's going to be like deathmatch for one of the 3 plies. That's the world I'm excited to live in.
The Charmin Bears are going to be headlining every festival.
I can't wait for the upgrade to Corvid 20. I want to see what happens with that.
Nice.
Oh, I mean,
so it's just a bunch of bullshit updates, and it just slows down the fucking phone, and like you get like 2 new features. It's fucking bullshit. So
Richie,
now the dry cough is moist. It's like, do I really needed a whole update for that? You know, like,
Richie or Miles or Tom, are any of you guys like? Do any of you 3 have a medical background?
Yes.
I went to EMT school.
I would think that, so I don't know anything about naming conventions. I don't know a whole lot about a lot of things. Let's start there. But I feel like, isn't COVID-20 eventually going to be a thing?
You know, I don't know how that works, but you would think it would be sequential, right? Like,
I mean, that's how my brain works.
But to be honest, like, I've done this Simpsons podcast for 3 years now, and I still don't understand, like, the fancy episode numbering system. Like, this is, like, 5F10 or something like that, and I have no idea how Season 9, Episode 15 becomes F9010 or whatever the hell it actually is.
Oh, so yeah, Earth is a reality TV show, is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you, Dave. I also don't know a lot about much. I know a little about some stuff.
I don't know much, but I know I love you.
Going right. I made the little, like, heart thing with my hands, but then I forgot, like, much like Tom's nipples, you can't see that.
Well, much like Tom's nipples, my love also isn't real.
Nice. So we actually get a glimpse at the comedy festival where we actually see, I think it's, isn't this where Steve Wright is performing?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. There's actually a funny thing from the commentary on this where I think it was Mike Scully, if I'm not mistaken. Again, there was a lot of names on this commentary, but he was talking about the recording session with Stephen Wright, and he tried to make a joke. Basically, after Stephen did his takes, he said to Stephen, like, "Hey man, you're not going to talk like that the whole time, are you? I mean, like, can you pick up the pace?" And Stephen Wright didn't realize he was kidding, like, because that's Stephen Wright's whole kind of bit. Much like if you see Tom Murphy, like, if you go to a Tom Murphy show, you're guaranteed to get at least a few, like, ahs. And when you go to a Stephen Wright show, that's the cadence that you're to expect. It's his own style. But yeah, I think it's hilarious that he got joked with and somebody didn't understand it.
There's something about you just now, Miles. All of a sudden, you just, like, took on some kind of, like, crazy, like, charisma.
Oh, wow. Is it the first time you've heard me be funny?
When I heard that, yeah, I was like, this guy's a sex machine.
Yeah, now maybe you should buy a mirror, Tom, because that's how we all feel around you every single day.
A meteor?
Yeah, buy a meteor, Tom.
What?
I tell you, this is a very weird sensation. It's the first time I've talked like on a phone with headphones.
Yeah, so that was
So,
easy
yeah.
to think that he said buy a meteor.
Welcome to 2020, man.
Oh, is it
Tom?
meteor or media?
I said mirror, bro. Like a reflective
mirror.
surface. Or you know what? Just get a picture of yourself and put a pin at the forehead and stare into that.
I love that bit.
That's from this episode.
Yeah, weird how that happens. Oh man, I also really love Homer is actually listening to Steven's bit here, and he talks about how he read the entire dictionary and found out the zebra did it. To which Homer does not get it.
I like that.
Yeah,
joke.
the zebra didn't
Steven
do it.
Ryan is seriously one of the most underrated comics.
Well, he got last billing on the list of comics at this comedy festival. Yeah, I'd say so.
I mean, did anyone else notice too? It's I think every comic on the episode is like a guest voice. I think they were all Boston comics, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
I did not know that. I don't know enough about comedy to know that.
I don't like stalk comedians and know like where they reside at night. So, but good for you and your hobbies. It's important to stay busy in these times.
Good for you and your same hobby, Miles. That's the same hobby you have.
Miles, I thought you were the guy behind the bushes. How do you not stalk people?
It's true. I'm slipping back in Homer style as we speak.
Oh,
We actually get a little bit of stand-up from Janine Garofalo, too, who is talking about her period, which makes
I saw
Marge
that and I
spit
didn't notice
her...
any. I'm not being critical. Sorry to interrupt too. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
On the Garofalo, I didn't notice a joke.
Plus,
No, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm also sure she doesn't care what I think, but that's
Yeah.
all. Maybe I missed.
Homer thought it was pretty funny.
I think that, like, that was the... Yeah, I think the joke in this is that, like, the Marge reaction and the fact that Homer is just, like, dying at, like, her very dry... Really more of a, like, self-reflection than it is a... Like, there's no punchline, to David's point.
Yeah.
All right.
Or it's almost
You know what
like
it's like
the...
kissing a guy with a tongue stud?
Yeah. It almost feels like they're just, like, two disconnected jokes. Like, the setup is
Yeah.
for one joke and the punchline maybe for the other, or maybe they're both setups. I don't know.
Who knows?
But either way, I forgot to mention when Bart was at the mall meeting with the comedy festival people, he actually was like, "Are you crazy, man? You can't put on a comedy show in Springfield and not include Krusty the Clown. Like, he is comedy, right?" And they actually did put Krusty on the show, and he actually apparently used to hang out with all these comedians back in the day before his, famous TV show.
I like that. Tom, are you okay?
Are you doing coke on the podcast, Tom? Like,
Oh,
for the love of God, dude!
I'm sorry.
Like, fucking
I
do
was
it.
blowing
Like,
my-
do all the drugs you
I was
want.
blowing-
Just don't like get your microphone involved.
Yeah, just put it on
I was-
mute first.
I was blowing my nose. I'm sorry.
So
I know
so
you were putting
Miles-
blow in your nose, and like, don't do that on the microphone. That's literally what we just told you.
So Miles,
Yes, David.
I like how little effort it took to convince Jay Leno to put Krusty on the show.
Don't you wish you could get booked that easily? Like, I could just
Yeah.
like have like a 10-year-old kid go up and be like, "What? You haven't heard of Miles Francis? He's got to headline your show."
Yeah, and he's like, if he's half as alive as you say he is, he's on.
Oh man. So Krusty comes out and he immediately goes into just some really tired, very dated, like his first joke's about TV dinners, and he's just doing a bunch of stuff that is just completely old school and like not funny, and at a certain point,
are you
racist.
kidding me? Reruns? Come on now. That was funny.
I like
What's
that.
a rerun?
It's basically an in-flight dinner.
Oh, okay.
The comics backstage are actually making fun of Krusty, and even, like, I think it's Jay Leno himself is like, what is he gonna do next? The flapping Dickie? And that's exactly what Krusty does, complete
After
with,
he
like...
did his racist impression.
I was going to say, he put in some, like, oversized teeth and did, like, a very old-school Chinese person impression. Which is actually two things I want to say about that real quick. One is there's a very funny video that's not that old where there's a stand-up comic who actually does that on stage in, like, I'm going to say the last 15 years. And some dude in the front row just straight knocks him the fuck out. And it's pretty devastating. It's pretty funny, too. But the other thing is actually from the commentary, and I want to say it was George Meyer. Remember, a lot of names, it was hard to keep track of all of them, much like this episode. But George Meyer had a story about how they always have a hard time whenever they're doing offensive jokes, but, like, the butt of the joke is the person that's being offensive. So in this case, yes. Yeah. Krusty is doing something racist, but, like, they're not endorsing the racism or even making it look in a positive light. They're punching down on the racism, and that's how that whole works. Well, George Meyer recalls an incident where, I think it was after this episode, he said, but Mr. Burns, who is often noted for using out-of-date terminology, referred to an Asian person as a Chinaman. And he got her, like, they basically got a lot of flack for it, much like this episode, where they had to fight with the censors and all this good stuff. But it got, the Chinaman incident, actually got to a point where a reporter called George Meyer, and George Meyer responded, they demanded an apology. So George Meyer said, then fine, on behalf of all of the Simpsons, me so sorry. Now, the reporter and him were on, like, good standings and whatever, and, like, the reporter just paused for a minute and was like, do you want to go with something else? And George Meyer did, and he was very grateful not to have that in print, but he was willing to tell that story here on this commentary.
Oh, jeez. That's a good story.
Good times. See, kids, racism can be fun.
Oh, you don't gotta tell me.
Oh, man. So, moving on, Krusty bombs flat out. It's awful. He's backstage depressed, and the tech is like, Krusty, you got 5 minutes.
I ain't going back out there.
No, you've got 5 minutes to get your stuff.
Well, that's a good impression. Who did that?
That's Richie, bud.
That's a very good impression.
Oh, thank you, sir. He's never listened to the show.
Do the Chinese voice, and then I'll, like, isolate the audio. Ruin whatever career you have.
Oh, man. So that's the end of our first act, and we actually open up our second act, where it's Krusty sitting with Sideshow Mel and reading a review of the festival, which did not paint him in a good light, we'll say.
There's a lot of recent episodes where they're at the Pimento Grove, and I know there's going to be a couple more. Since we're doing things out of order, we might have recorded one already where they're back there, but it's becoming quite the hot spot on the show.
Yeah, it's like the upscale fancy restaurant that people go to.
The only fancy restaurants.
Yeah. I feel like they've been to fancy restaurants in the past, but it wasn't called. I just don't think they were named.
Yeah,
so it could have theoretically been the Pimento Grove. I don't know.
And that just killed the
I don't want to hijack the podcast, so I don't know if I should say anything, but all I'm thinking about now is Bohemian Grove.
Oh, like,
I don't know. You guys want to do like an Alex Jones kind of adjunct podcast thing here? So,
I got different.
What are the elites doing at these camps? That's what I wanted. I don't know.
This just became a Secret Transmission podcast episode. Shout out to our buddies over there at the Secret Transmission podcast. Tom, you've actually
that is who I thought Richie was.
Yeah. No, that's Toby.
Yeah. You thought I was Toby?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Which is actually, you're not the only person I know, and not the only comic I know that has mixed these two up, to be honest.
You're welcome, Toby.
Yeah, super weird, honestly, because in my opinion, y'all don't look anything alike.
No, they don't look. If I'm remembering the right guy now, they don't look anything alike. It's just he was like, "You already know me," and I was like, "Okay, that's someone mild. That's probably who I know."
Yeah, but Tom has to remember at what point of his bender did he meet some of my friends.
Yeah, well, it's. I don't know, studied at, I don't know, we can go in an ethnic direction with the Irish shit if you want to really get down in the gutter. That's what you're trying to do.
Moving on with the episode.
You know?
Oh, man. So speaking of the Irish, Krusty goes and gets himself super drunk. Trying to drink away his sorrows, it would seem. Actually,
the gutter room and like El Blotto's and the bloated liver.
So I actually have two other notes on this scene too. One, I just have to shout out the animation department. Like when the scene first starts, where you see Krusty's bender, he flicks a cigarette into the camera, and it's just fucking beautiful, man. Like it's a scene that caught my eye every time I rewatch the episode. Like the way that it's like the perfect cigarette flick, and like the ember comes right into the camera lens, and that transitions into like the faded out bender sequence where it's almost dreamlike.
Doesn't the monkey try to give him a banana before that too? And he's like, "That's your answer for everything." I like that bit.
We already talked about the controversy with the racism in this episode, but there was another bit of controversy with this episode, and it's all from this bender scene, and it actually came from none other than the National Hockey League. They were not happy at all about the idea of Krusty both chugging from the Stanley Cup, which they were okay with, but they were not okay with him puking back into the Stanley Cup. They felt very disrespected, and they actually wrote The Simpsons essentially a cease and desist letter, but it wasn't actually like a legally binding cease and desist. It wasn't like written by a lawyer. There was no allegations of any sort of like slander or anything like that. It was more or less just a very formally written request for them not to, and they said, no, this joke is way too funny to cut.
George Meyer should have called somebody and said, "Me so sorry."
Because they're Canadian.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can offend somebody on every continent this episode. I mean, Antarctica is going to be tricky. Good luck, fellas.
And I can offend the Americans by saying I thought we already offended everybody on every continent because we only think of ourselves.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, the whole world ends at the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean.
There you go.
If only.
Oh my god. All right, cool. I've got a lot of free time on my hands. The threatening letters and negative feedback is going to be super fun for me. I'm stoked. Thank you guys for giving me something to do with my life. I was worried it was just going to become a downward spiral.
There's no video on here. I'm from Belgium. I'm Taiwanese.
Perfect. Since Krusty is no longer on his TV show, Kent Brockman, the clown, is filling in for Krusty. Since Krusty didn't come in, he is presumed dead or on vacation. Today's top joke: it seems a local moron threw his clock out the window. We'll tell you why right after this.
Because time flies.
Jay Leno.
Have you guys ever heard the Norm Macdonald version of that joke?
I'm sure I have, but remind me.
All right, it's a little dicey.
Not for this.
Be careful with this.
All right, so this is Norm Macdonald. It said it was, why did the moron throw the clock out the window? Because it reminded him of Richard Clock, the man convicted of knife raping his wife.
And we're canceled. Thank you, Tom.
I'm glad you kept that one in your back pocket.
I should have done it in the Norm voice.
If we could have made it seem like he
Richard
was
Clark, the man convicted of raping his yeah.
That was the most Tom Murphy'd up Norm Macdonald voice I've ever heard, for what it's worth. David, do you have anything offensive you'd like to add?
Get off your chest.
Uh-oh, is David still with us? Did we lose David? Alright, I'm gonna see if I can fix that.
Oh, what's up?
Oh, he had that news on. I don't know. Wolf Blitzer can be very captivating.
I was asking if you had anything racist to add to the podcast.
I said specifically offensive, or I said offensive, not anything specifically racist.
I heard offensive, yeah. No, you'd have to really like pry that out of me.
Yeah, we're good. I think we've got plenty.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, we can move on. I just wanted to make sure, you weren't neglected.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, right on. So Krusty is this where we find Krusty in the Flanders yard being poked with sticks?
Yes.
Yeah. Another note from the commentary that this is actually from Yardley Smith, who said that she had read this and was curious, and none of the Simpsons animators could verify it for her, so they just assumed it's true. But according to this random sheet that Yardley Smith had with her, this was the first time a Simpsons character was animated with bloodshot eyes, as Krusty is awoken from his drunken slumber by being poked with sticks by the Flanders kids.
9 seasons in.
Huh.
Yeah.
I would have assumed how often Homer's drunk it happened before.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of Barney, too.
Yeah.
It does seem like there would be a lot of opportunity for bloodshot eyes, but I can't really confirm or deny that, much like the animation department on this commentary staff, or commentary track.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. I'm not one to doubt Yardley Smith. She seems like she knows what's up. She does a true crime podcast now, so she's clearly in the know.
Yeah, she's got some inside info.
Speaking of her, I did like the bit earlier when Bart was trying to cheer Krusty up, and he was like, "Lisa said it was really good," and Krusty was like, "Lisa, eh?"
Yeah, that was good.
But Bart actually, I've lost track of how many times at this point, but once again, Bart comes to Krusty's rescue. He gets Rod and Todd to quit poking him with sticks, and he actually drags him upstairs. Like, it's pretty funny because you see his head bang on every stair. And he puts Krusty into his Krusty bed-sheeted bed with all of the Krusty clocks and toys and basically anything that you could possibly brand. It has Krusty's face on it. And that's the room that Krusty wakes up in. And it kind of, I guess, makes him have a revelation to some degree.
After he tries to fix his face and hair by looking in a mirror, which is actually just a poster of him.
Oh yeah, with the tack. He's like, I gotta get this tack out of my forehead. Go ahead, Tom.
Does anyone know? Because I know Krusty. I know he's supposed to kind of sound like a Borscht Belt comic from like back in the day. Does anyone know? Is he based on like a specific guy, or is he just, or is that just supposed to be kind of like a hacky comic from like vaudeville Borscht Belt?
That's the impression that I got.
So there are, on IMDb specifically, it says that there's a lot of Bill Hicks in his like later part of the episode, or especially when he's doing the like sit on the stool, one knee up, cigarette, kind of starting his rant. Then he flips the script entirely and does something that Bill Hicks would never do when he endorses the Canyon Arrow, of course. But
spoiler alert.
Yeah, sorry. I forgot if you were watching this. You might not know the ending. But yeah, other than that, I don't know that there was any specific comic that they were really emulating. I think, like you said, it's just kind of going for that older style.
Well, when they bring him back where he gets all like truth teller he's got the Carlin hair.
Yeah, the old man ponytail.
Yeah.
Where you're like bald on top and long in the back, but it's like not a mullet.
Yeah. By the way, it's easier for Bill Hicks to cast aspersions. He never did ads for the Canyon Arrow because he was never asked. Okay, he talks so much shit about Jay Leno and those Doritos ads. It's like, yeah, because Fritos never called you back. Come on.
Yeah, dude. If I get the opportunity, it's not selling out. It's people buying into me. So whatever products you want to put my face on, yeah, just do it.
Even if it's the eye wash.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna use it.
Oh God, no.
I love. That's a good point. Yeah, when Krusty's like breaking down, Bart offers him a Krusty branded cotton swab, but it burns. What the hell's in that thing?
Or with Carlin. Carlin did commercials for something.
Did he?
Yeah, because I remember, because he had a bit about it where he was shitting all over advertising and talking about how terrible it is, and then at some point he was like, and you may remember that I do those ads for Kodak or whoever it was. It's like, and if you're trying to figure out how I can do that and also do these jokes, you're just going to have to figure that shit out for yourself. You just kind of like, yeah, no, I like money. So,
gotta pay the bills, man.
Well, Well, he was into it with the IRS for fucking like decades.
Oh yeah. He was on the. That's why he's putting out some of these specials there towards the end and whatnot. I think Tom, you and I talked about this at Hat Tricks not too long ago, but I recently found out. I thought this was incredible that George Carlin essentially had like a lost special for a while. Like the audio is available now, but the video has been permanently destroyed. And essentially, the special was called "I like to see when lots of people die," or I like it when people die.
I really like it when a lot of people die.
And it was recorded on September 10th, 2001, or maybe September 9th, 2001. So George Carlin's publicist essentially destroyed that footage, but in later years, the audio has been released. But man, like, what awful timing. And like, that was something like, I think that I heard that the cost of the loss of that special is part of what put him into the hole.
I think it happened multiple times too, that it's like, he wanted to name a special that, and then 9/11 happened, and then he wanted to do it again, and then like Katrina happened, and it kept happening over and over again, where like he's about to release it, and then
people just kept dying. Yeah, super. I imagine if he were alive today, he'd be writing one right now before the coronavirus takes effect.
Or right before Tom went on stage. A lot of
people shake hands without washing.
True. There you go. So Jay Leno somehow Bart manages to get a hold of Jay Leno, who comes to Krusty's aid, and they actually wash Krusty in the bathtub, which is a little awkward, especially since Krusty's makeup stays on the whole time, which is always just funny to see. Oh yeah, good point. They're like combing out his hair and giving him like a makeover, and Jay's giving him some comedy advice. Like, he needs to change it up and modernize his act and maybe do some observational humor. Homer comes walking in and Bart's like, "Dad!"
Whoops, sorry, son. I didn't know you, Jay Leno, and a monkey were bathing a clown.
Bart, in his like unending efforts to help his hero, decides to put on a comedy showcase in his living room, with the headliner being Krusty the Clown. Bart opens for him, and he does a little bit of impression work. I actually really do like that it's Nancy Cartwright doing a Marge impression as Bart, and it's really good, honestly. Like, it sounds funny.
Homer and Lisa love it.
Yeah, Marge not so much. I think then Krusty comes and takes the stage, and is this where he does the what's the deal with cardboard?
Yeah. What's the deal with cardboard?
Jesus Christ. I got a goddamn wasp out here.
I thought you were doing the next line to that.
Dude.
I need to find something to kill this wasp. See.
You'll be fine.
The fully interactive
let the wasp
podcast
be, man.
experience.
Like, yeah, trust me, it's not going to get anywhere near you if you just start talking.
Tom, you're fine with wasps. It's hornets you got to worry about.
I'm just dying for Tom to make a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant joke right now, but...
that's what I was thinking. I was like, well, say you can trust them and take it. Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking something like that, but now that we've had, I'm not.
Yeah,
that bastard go. All right, I think it flew off.
So I guess this show goes well enough that Krusty decides that he's going to, or I'm sorry, it goes poorly enough that he decides he's quitting show business. While he's explaining that his comedy just isn't funny anymore, he actually starts kind of roasting some of the other comedians, and it turns out to be really funny. And Krusty realizes if he's just honest, it's actually pretty funny.
And then they're like, "Wait, you like this? In that case, I announce my return to comedy."
And immediately, Krusty gets booked at Moe's Tavern, where Marge notices that there's a 4-drink minimum.
I'll cover you, honey.
Homer's got her back.
Mm-hmm.
Moe actually tries it. Yeah, Moe's giving it a shot at comedy, much like Richie did at the roast a few weeks ago.
Oh. Hi, how you folks doing? I'm Moe, or as the ladies like to call me, "Hey, you behind the bushes."
So Moe gets absolute crickets. which is
Looks like Richie did at Hat Tricks a few weeks ago.
no, your jokes got laughs, dude. You went on like super late. You were literally the last person to go up, so that's always tough. But
Only judge to ever roast.
Hang on a second.
I might not be the best person to consult here because I didn't remember Richie in the first place, but I definitely don't remember Richie getting laughs.
David,
So even though I don't remember exactly who he is, I'm positive I didn't see him get laughs.
you for sure know he's not funny. That's the important
If I got
part.
booed off the stage, you would definitely remember who I am. So that's a positive.
David, what did you want to say, sir?
Oh, I just wanted to ask, Richie, do you do comedy?
No.
Okay. Just thought it felt kind of bad if you do and I hadn't seen you or anything.
Well, I mean, you host a mic. It would be his fault for
Wait,
not
so you were
coming
just
to your
trying
events.
to? Why would you even ask it? You were just trying to create an uncomfortable social situation for yourself.
You know what?
You could have just let that slide.
Like if Tom, you're operating under the assumption that I thought ahead,
Ah.
which I guarantee you I did not do.
Yeah, you probably don't have any toilet paper.
I got a little, but that's completely independent of the situation.
That just happened to be what he had on hand.
Yeah, it's like the one thing I bought.
Dude, honestly, I had a similar situation. I went to the grocery store like a while before like everything got crazy, but like right when it was starting to get crazy. And like when I walked in the door, one of the employees like put a thing of toilet paper in my cart, and I was like, I don't need that. And the guy looks at me like I'm nuts. He's like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, I don't know. Should I like need it? Like at this point, I had just done inventory. We had like I'm completely stocked full on toilet paper. I do not need additional paper to wipe my ass with in a normal situation. But like the guy was like, "Yeah, man, like we're limiting one per customer, and I'm on my third pallet today of just like handing it out as people walk in." So.
Man, that seems like a great marketing campaign. I'm just going to hire people to stand at the front of grocery stores and push my product directly into your cart. They're flying off the shelves, man. Get them before they're gone forever.
It's like you
idea.
you like sell like maple syrup. It's like why are we short on this? What's happening? Why is it $12 for a small jar?
Exactly.
If you really want to make money hand over fist, you start handing out X-Lax at the door and tell everybody it's chocolate.
And then while there's a shortage on toilet paper, Tom, you're a monster. So Mo gets nothing, no laughs whatsoever, but he's opening for Krusty, who has got a brand new look. Like we said, it's kind of got a George Carlin kind of vibe. And he comes out, and it's a completely different Krusty.
So I'm watching TV today,
Woohoo! TV, yeah!
and all I keep seeing is dead celebrities hawking products. You got poor old Vincent Price floating around in a toilet keg telling me about the horrors of unfresh bowel.
And Krusty goes on to make fun of Winston Churchill, of all people, which actually gets a response, I think, from Homer of, "Impeach Churchill!"
Opposite response.
I love that Homer is so knowledgeable of local politics. Like he knows, like in the like couple episodes that we either recorded ahead and are coming up, or that we already recorded and have already talked about. Like Homer knows about like various bills that are in play in his local government, but he doesn't realize that Churchill is no longer president or alive, nor was he ever president. Was he president? Yeah, no.
That was a good save on your part.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I could probably
Yeah,
name like 30 of the 45 presidents, probably.
Well, I love it. Homer's shown that his knee-jerk response to just the awareness of anyone who's possibly been any kind of political anything is just like, fuck that guy. I know people like that, where it's like they don't even know about politics, but it's just like they hate everybody. You know?
Sure. Yeah, they
It's not
just want to watch the wood
not even a
burn,
bad
man.
perspective. I mean, you end up being half right, probably 75% of the time.
It can't go worse than how it normally does.
Yeah, sure.
So let's burn it down.
Klobuchar 2020. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right on.
Burn it down, Miles. Burn it down.
I think we are actively doing that as we speak right now.
Right before Krusty does it.
Sounds like it, yeah. Hey guys,
I'm sorry, but you guys are the first people I've talked to other than like 2 people in like 2 weeks here, so I'm feeling strange.
That would make us the third and fourth person you've talked to if we're keeping up with the math on that. But Either
Whatever.
way, keeping up with the act in the back are a couple of network executives who are really they're stoked because everybody is hanging on Krusty's every word.
I don't have the Krusty quote if you're trying to lead me
Yeah,
into
it changed page and we don't have it. Fuck it. The executives signed Krusty. They wanna make him a deal.
Burns money.
Yeah, they want to offer him a bunch of cash to endorse the product.
Oh yeah, this is another thing that I thought that that episode reminded me of. That I don't know if it was intentional on their part, but have you guys ever seen the movie Network?
Oh hell yeah!
It's kind of like Network, how he comes out and just like goes crazy and just like gets everything off his chest, and then suddenly they realize it's profitable and it's a commercially viable thing to just bitch about the status quo.
They didn't mention that in the commentary, but like that, I totally feel that. Like in that, the timing of that movie, that could have definitely held an influence on this scene.
Did they mention that anything that did influence it?
Not specifically, but again, a lot of times when you have a celebrity guest on the DVD commentaries, it kind of becomes like their show to some extent, and I don't mean that as a diss against Jay Leno. It's just the way that the commentary tracks tend to work. But Jay was kind of just hamming it up a little bit, making a lot of jokes, and he was very complimentary. He said he enjoyed the experience a lot. He made fun of the fact that since all the Simpsons have an underbite and he has kind of a giant chin, his character model, they did a good job, but it's just like I definitely could tell I do not fit in this universe. But he also said he really loved the way that the Simpsons have a manner of both complimenting their guest as they're also like roasting them, and like as a comedian especially, he said that was just amazing to have these comedy writers just kind of poking fun at him, which is something that he at that time, being the host of the Tonight Show at that time, was essentially something that he did on a nightly basis. So he said he had a lot of fun kind of having it flipped back around on him.
That's cool.
Who didn't have fun having it flip back around on them was Conan when they pulled him off the Tonight Show. Why don't you think about that, Jay?
Yikes! Yikes! Getting personal. Yeah, I could. I would imagine, Tom, like that you would be like the president of the Conan O'Brien fan club, but like also have never watched a show. You just know that guy is supposed to be who you support.
Yeah, he's, I don't know, whenever people talk about representation, like he's my man in Hollywood.
Honestly, when I first met you, I just thought Conan had let himself go, and I was really excited, but then I was like, oh, I guess this guy's alright. See,
most people are going to think that means I'm like a fat redhead, not a redhead who looks like he's on meth. Like, that's what you mean by letting himself go.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Conan with a drug habit, for sure. Not, yeah.
Right.
You're correct, yeah.
Yeah, I have a body that is it's small, it's skinny, it's mostly filled with cancer, but like it's in shape technically.
Yeah. Tom, we know you tried to show us like 8 times today. We don't need a brief description.
We get it, Tom. Cancer is a shape. Cool. Oh man, so these and also people that didn't like having the roast flipped on them was Marge and Homer and Bart, who Homer decided since he saw this comedy show, he was going to give it a try. So he basically tells Marge that she's getting a little fat around the old thighs, and then tells Bart he is as well. But finally Marge is like, knock it off, Homer. You're the fattest one in this car.
You didn't have to tell it like it is, Marge. I like the scene right before that when Marge gave Lisa all the money in her wallet. It was like, go bury this in the yard before Homer burns it.
I love you, Mom.
They immediately get back to it right here.
Oh, man. But yeah, later...
Wait, so do you do... I'm sorry, wait, Richie, do you do all the voices?
No, Miles does voices too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
your Homer is not nearly as impressive as your Krusty. Your Krusty is fucking, like, spot on.
Thank you. Krusty's my pride and joy. I like doing Mr. Burns, too.
And whichever one you're doing right now, I don't like it.
All right, cool.
Yeah, you should improve that one for sure, dude.
All right.
So later with Krusty, we actually see that he is standing his ground against these network executives, or these, I guess they're not network executives, they're people that want him to sign up for endorsing Canyon Arrows. And Krusty is like, no, I'm not gonna let you do that. But basically, after just one additional press, Krusty's like, oh, okay.
But I like the bit he does. I like when he goes up on stage to like talk about how they kept pressuring him, and he kept telling him to screw off, basically.
Yeah, he actually tells the story of exactly what happens on stage, and like you said, he's like, yeah, I told him to screw off, but then they offered me $1 million.
It's funny. I feel like if somebody did that as a bit, I think it could work. Like if that was a real like comic who was on that level, and they were like, "Yeah, they told me that they were going to give me $500,000." I told them to fuck themselves, and then they told me, and then I said yes. That could be an actual bit that a comic can do successfully. I feel like,
but I can't think of anybody whose fan base would give a shit.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think, well, I don't know. Maybe times have changed. Like the whole selling out thing. I don't think most people give a fuck now. Like
probably, yeah.
Yeah, it's not the same type of situation like it would have been back in the day, right? I mean, isn't technically like doing a Netflix special to some degree selling out? I mean, by those definitions,
they say yes to everything,
right? I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Again, I'm totally not selling out. I'm ready for everyone to buy into me, though. So.
That's what I tell myself to make myself feel better. It's like, that's why I don't have a Netflix special, because
I've got integrity.
I have integrity. A random bar show in Huntsville every now and then for $20, because that's integrity. You know.
I mean, to be fair, that's got to be what Krusty's making right now. He's not performing at like a really prominent venue. He's performing at freaking Moe's.
He's at the Brouhaha, Richie, the most prestigious comedy club in Springfield.
I thought he was still performing at Moe's.
It is. He just put a sign over Moe's.
Oh yeah, that's
Brouhaha.
Right.
So immediately, Krusty's bit, as we'll call it, his endorsement, his sellout, it gets boos from the crowd. Nobody's happy with it. Everybody, even Bart, is like, I don't get it, Krusty. You said you'd never be a shill again.
Meh. I learned something about myself today. It ain't comedy that's in my blood. It's selling out.
And Krusty actually does something nice for Bart, which is rare. Even as much as Bart always helps Krusty, it's not always reciprocated. But in this case, Krusty offers Bart a ride home in his brand new Canyonero.
If only we had a song to play.
I know. One where maybe you could name the truck with four-wheel drive that smells like a steak and seats 35.
Canyonero, Canyonero.
So we break out into this song, and I want to say a couple things about this, too. First of all, this song was designed to parody very popular Ford commercials at the time. They actually got Hank Williams Jr. to record this song over the phone.
Oh, is that him? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was doing a show in Nashville, Tennessee, and they actually got him to call in and do this lyrics for him over the phone, and it came out absolutely wonderful. We have a great recording of this that we had back on our 50th podcast spectacular. No, it's just a 50th podcast special. It wasn't a spectacular.
Oh, was it the 100th?
I
don't even remember.
I think it was the 50th. Either way, I'll throw that file on at the end. It's a really awesome recording done by a buddy of mine named Chris Novembrino, who recorded it for us and played the guitar and put some. I think he did drums and everything for it. It's dope as fuck. But this is one of my favorite Simpsons songs, and it's also one of the Simpsons writers' favorite Simpsons songs. In fact, David Cohen, who wasn't actually on this commentary but wanted to get the message expressed, that he said that this writing session, this group session where they wrote the lyrics to this song, is his all-time favorite memory from working on The Simpsons. And originally, they had this whole commercial edited together, and they decided they were going to cut it out and just play the song with the credits going over the end of it, but they liked the whole thing so much, that's why they did the weird split, and they actually do the credits, and then they go back to the commercial before finishing with the classic shh, do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Can you name the truck with four-wheel drive that smells like a steak and seats 35? Canyonero, Canyonero. It's 12 yards long and 2 lanes wide, 65 tons of American pride. Canyonero, Canyonero. Top of the line in utility sports, unexplained fires are a matter for the courts. Oh, Canyonero! She blinds everybody with her super high beam. She's a squirrel squashing, deer smacking, driving machine. Canyonero, Canyonero, yeah! Drive, Canyonero! Whoa, Canyonero!
You see like the 20th Century Fox symbol for a second, and you think it's over, but then it cuts right back into it.
I do remember at the time watching the episode and thinking it felt unusual for them to have a different outro song.
They always do like an interesting twist on like their theme. Like if it's like, for instance, like immediately it comes to my mind the Sideshow Bob episode where they end with the police dancing in hot pants on the beach, and it's like, who wears short shorts? And they almost do like a reggae,
yeah, you're right. That's true.
like a reggae vibe to it, yeah. But anyway, that is how this episode comes to an end with the brilliant Canyonero song. And that brings us to the end of the episode, The Last Temptation of Krust. David, is there anything else that you, sir, would like to talk about this episode before we call it a day?
About this episode, not specifically yet, but as soon as Tom starts talking, I'm sure something will come to me.
Well, jump back in, bro. You don't have to feel like you're out of time. We've still got a few more things to talk about ourselves. But Tom, we'll go ahead and cut to you, sir. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about this episode?
I was just gonna say the Canyonero song. It's a nice, if you like Hank Williams Jr., but you don't want to listen to music that includes the N-word. His Canyonero rendition is. It's one of your few opportunities. It's perfect. Hank Williams Jr. is a racist. I don't know if anyone knew that.
I'm very unfamiliar with
exquisitely put.
The uncomfortable silence. I felt I had to elaborate.
I have know very little about country music, so I know Hank Williams Jr. I know the name, but I don't know anything else about him. So
he's a good singer. I don't know. So it's like my uncle, he's a good guy. He's a good postman, just, a little racist, So.
David, did that inspire you to say anything else?
It really, about this episode, no, it did not. Is this the first time that in this Simpsons universe, there's any sort of reference or allusion to Krusty being a stand-up comic?
Yeah, I do believe it is the only time that it's listed him as being a stand-up, if I'm remembering
He's been like
correctly.
a stand-up clown.
All I can think of before is him and his dad told him that he didn't want him to be a clown.
Yeah, he's always been like a more of a performance-based, like not that stand-up isn't performance-based, but you know what I mean? Like
sure.
more of like storytelling art as opposed to like a joke-telling art.
All right, so I'm not insane.
No, like he's definitely like all of his history's been at like clown college and clowning, and like you said, his dad wanting him specifically not to be a clown.
All right.
See, that episode must have gotten like trapped in my mind in a major way because I thought of Krusty as being like, oh yeah, he was a stand-up comedian, and then I thought that was in more episodes, him having done stand-up or something. I don't know. Not
to my knowledge. I think this might be a
one. You would know better than me. For some reason, I think it's probably this episode was one that I remember really well from when I was a kid. So I just like got its talents in me.
Right on. Well, Richie, how about you or that book of yours? Anything else that you would like to add for The Last Temptation of Krust?
I was reading through the goofs, actually, on IMDb, and it mentioned in the shoe part at the beginning that when Lisa takes off her sandals, she's got 3 toes instead of 4. But I read that today because I forgot to read the goofs, and now I have to go back and rewatch it. So everyone out there in social media land, you have nothing better to do with your time. try to confirm or deny that Lisa only has 3 toes, but still has to wear a dirty sock.
Interesting.
What kind of porn are you into that this is even on your radar? Like,
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, 3-toed foot fetish. Obs.
3-toed cartoon 8-year-olds. Oh my God.
Oh
we're
yeah,
fired.
yeah. Now we've actually crossed the line. Yeah. Amazingly, Richie was the one to do it. Incredible.
Nobody
yeah,
has
your search terms are technically legal.
All right. Well, it's been fun, man. I've been super stoked to have you guys join us to talk about The Simpsons. David, do you want to tell anybody where they can find you online if they wish to find your comedic takes on life?
I would love that. Let's see. Twitter. You can follow me at DJD666. You can follow me on Snapchat on DJD.666 because somebody beat me to my username.
But are you a Satanist?
I'm not, but I figured that number is probably available a lot.
You gotta imagine that, like, after 69 and 420, that's gonna be like one of the next ones people go for.
You might think so, but then again, you might not.
Okay. Anywhere else you want to plug? Or anything? Any projects you want to plug online?
Not at the moment. I have a Facebook series where I ask my friend Pete to explain things to me like as if I'm a child.
Dude, I love Ask Pete. That's such a good.
Thank you.
That's such a good like bit. I enjoy it all the time. Actually, am I allowed to ask questions on that? I don't want to steal your gimmick, but there's times where I have follow-ups and I'd really like to get involved.
Go for it. It's a very informal thing. I have asked Pete in these times of quarantine. I've asked him if he wants to do it live.
Yeah, dude. That's Pete Young, right? Is another Dallas comedian that is we're referencing right now. He's such a smart dude and a very funny dude as well.
Yeah, that dude went to some Ivy League school. I always forget which one. But
I love his bit where he roasts himself for going to an Ivy League school, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, but let's see. I've got that. I'm the co-host, you could say, of Ask Pete. # Ask Pete. Let's see. Facebook, MySpace, Twitter. Snapchat. What else? What other things exist?
Are you still on MySpace? I don't know, man.
Probably. I think they kick everybody off.
I think it's over. IDs? Yeah, I think it's gone. I don't really know.
Isn't Zoom a thing now?
Zoom is a thing. Yeah, I heard today that people are getting hacked. But whatever. Get on my Zoom anyway.
Farmersonly.com.
I'm not on that. I'm not on that yet. I don't know anything about planting.
You're not trying to fuck someone on a bale of hay.
I would. I'm not at all opposed to it.
It's not a priority for you?
I would 100% do it if I thought that...
I mean, Marge and Homer do it.
I feel like it'd be super convenient if you had an itchy back and you needed to have your back scratched while also having sex. Like, I feel like that would be the most operative.
Relieve two things at the same time.
Oh man, that might be too much pleasure. I don't know if that would be a good thing or not. But speaking of too much pleasure, Tom Murphy is on the internet now, which is crazy. He was there for a week and has already been booked more than I have been. So, Tom, do you want strangers to talk to you online or do you want to stay anonymous?
I mean, I'm on Facebook, but I got the privacy settings turned up pretty high, so I don't know if anyone will be able to find me.
If you can break through Tom's tinfoil hat, you can find Tom Murphy,
if you look
comedian.
If you look for me, DJD666, I have everything on public, so I'll just gladly point you to Tom.
Oh yeah, and then you can just find your mutual friend, or your mutual friends or whatever. That's there you go.
Yeah, I'll just give you a link to his Facebook.
Yeah, you got a hole in your tinfoil hat there, Tom. You're gonna have to work on that.
Yeah, people can see the posts that I put out every 2 weeks. It'll be very exciting for everybody.
Stop being selfish with your. Stop being selfish, Tom.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today on the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. We appreciate you being here and talking about the show that we all love so much. Richie, you want to take us out of here?
Yeah, you can follow Miles at Mr. Most Days Off. You can follow me at TheWiz_Kid23. But most importantly, follow our show at Best Darn Diddly. That's DIDDLY. You can join us again next week for I don't know what episode because is it the Dumbbell Indemnity?
Come back again next week when Richie and I will be reviewing the Dumbbell Indemnity.
Ooh.
Much like Tom's career, this podcast is over.
Tom did just jump off. Oh, there he is.
And until next time, Be cromulent to each other.